And I'm back.
Sorry, just one sec here.
No problem.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Hey, Hayden, how you doing?
Well enough. How have my latest chapters been going? I'm hoping to basically finish the book and then just mass dump all the chapters at once.
Yeah, hang on just one sec. Sorry, I'm just feeling a bit of a rough day, so my energy level's a little tapped, but I'm going to try to come in here.
That's okay.
So I went into chapter 10, and that took the full half hour, so I wasn't able to get to the other chapter.
Okay.
Um, but this is good. I think we're almost there. So if you're good with it, I'll just, as usual, give my feedback here. First thought I had was it's good overall, structurally good. And I'd say that I think you can probably easily shave a couple or even 3 pages off of this because there's areas where I like what you're doing. You've got a conversation that goes on for quite a while, but really the main thing it's saying could be summarized in this, but the conversation's like that long, and some of that's okay. But I'll go through sort of examples of what I'm talking about here. But I think the two biggest things are we need an ending that has a hook. Like right now, it ends exactly the way you expect it to end from the very beginning of the chapter. So I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Um, and The one thing I noticed, having read a version of this chapter multiple times in the past, I thought, oh, okay, I can see what happened. I've done this where I've got the basic structure for a chapter, and then I later change a significant thing about that chapter, and suddenly the way I wrote that chapter, I have to fix a few little things around it for it to make sense with the new character. For example, we'll get to this in a minute. For example, when he finds out that Ramona is going to, I love this, when he finds out that Ramona is going to be his partner, let's see where the reveal is. God fucking damn it. All of the conversation after has Julius saying things that definitely made sense 3 or 4 months ago when we were talking about Jack, but now they don't seem to make as much sense about Ramona, and that'll explain that in a moment. It does overall, but little tweaks is going to be what I suggest. So I love this great. The intro is just so solid. There's just a nice breeziness to the way you're writing stuff. The walking into the airport, I feel like I'm there. Like it was just this great immersive feeling of I'm in that airport, and I love that. His favorite trench coat, all of this stuff came from a dire polar bear. What do you mean by dire polar bear?
Dire is a pretty common monster in D&D. It basically just means a worse version of an already existing animal.
Okay, hang tight.
Yeah, just look up
Okay, so
dire
you're
bear.
yeah, and I knew that from things like Philip Pullman's books and stuff like that. I thought maybe that's what you meant. So people who are familiar with that term will understand it. Um, People who aren't familiar with it won't have a clue what it means. So in other words, it's an extremely rarefied term that's super familiar to some people and won't register with anybody except those people who understand that term, because the word dire also means desperate, and so that's the much bigger meaning of it that most people will actually be used to. So
To be
you
fair, there
might
were
want to pick.
actual dire bears in real life.
Yeah, it's still not a term most people I think are going to be familiar with. There's certainly a contingent of people who will get it 100%. Um, but if you're wanting anybody outside of that to understand, the first thing they're going to think about, if they don't have any way of connecting it to the sort of that terminology within certain aspects of subcultures, they'll understand the word. To me, like it would be like you saying from a
I get that to a certain point, but at the same time, that's also kind of like the market I'm aiming for, and also at the same time, I don't
true,
want to
yeah,
completely reinvent the wheel and have to re-explain what everything is. Like because at that point, no one's going to
yep,
read it no matter
no,
how good it
totally.
is.
So exactly. So that's the choice. You can do whatever you want. Definitely make that choice. So when I'm in situations like that where I'm really hell bent on using a word because I like it and my fans will like it. No problem using it. Just be aware that the
Yeah,
gamble you're taking is that everybody else won't understand what you're talking about.
I
So
could,
it's
I could be,
it's
I
it
could potentially be shooting myself in the foot.
yeah, and it's not because I love the expression. Like whether it's dire wolves, like in Game of Thrones and stuff like that. If people who know it will know it, but I'll always encourage writers to think not to change it just because I said they should change it, but just be aware of the implications of making a certain choice. Love this whole thing here. He really hated the cold. I love that you're emphasizing that idea that he just hates the cold. I threw in a thing. He says he really did despise the cold rather than he really, really hated it. Don't even care. Choose your own words. I love that.
Yep, and that's going to be coming up
30
every
men.
chapter until he leaves Alaska.
Love it. So the BPA only has men, eh? 30 men, no women. I'm just curious. No, I'm not meaning to say you should have women, but this is
I
an
didn't really think about it.
extremely
I didn't really think
okay.
about it. Like, on the one hand, they're all werewolves, and
Yeah,
there's that. On the other hand, I guess I'll just put 30 men and women. I don't know.
yeah, or even just 30 soldiers or 30 or whatever they are, kind of thing. I just wanted to make you make that was the first thing, make you aware that you've got nothing but men in that particular scene. Um,
So too much
love
of
the
a
way this
sausage
whole cover.
fest.
It's a bit of a dick fest, yeah, but it's okay. What you don't want to do is signal to the audience, especially since you clearly have female leaders within this organization, that when it comes to actual fighting, it's like the United States Army in about 1953, right? So things have changed, things have evolved, kind of thing. Love the conversation between Julius and Dick. I always love the sort of the snarkiness between these two has always been awesome to me. Um, this I love this. There's something about the flow. He says, even though it's been there before, there's just something very natural. Like, good to see you, man. How's the harem? They're doing. Are you talking about my family or about my team? The team. You can't keep calling them that. It's a derogatory. The dialogue feels really natural there, and I'm absolutely in love with this part of the conversation. Um, and yeah, like fine. I'm sorry. Do you guys get me dinner and all the? I love this. It hit me a little. It comes with a lot of perks, including the massive paycheck. Sounded like a weird thing for him. Like it felt a bit tacky for Julius to to say it that way, kind of thing like that. But whatever. That was just my reaction to it. He says, "Yeah, it comes with the perks, including a big paycheck that you guys don't get." It just felt weird for Julius, who's usually pretty tight to the chest, to say that. Nepotism is when people who you're related to get you jobs. So I didn't understand what you mean by nepotism here.
I guess maybe seniority
Do
would
you
be a
mean
better
that,
word.
or favoritism?
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
work.
that might
Favoritism
be better.
definitely
Yeah.
works.
Here, I'll just put this in here. That would make more sense because definition's a little off, but I love that. So it's just riding them. I just love this whole conversation. It's a weird lion thing. I love that. It takes a lot of love, a lot of commitment. Your dialogue is definitely just gets better each time. It's so fun to read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's where I felt like the conversation gets a bit long and I'm just starting to skip stuff because I'm just like, oh wow, this is a lot of talking. So by the time we get to this page here, um, so yeah, from the time they meet, I think it's fine. A couple pages isn't the end of the world. Um, so it's kind of cool back and forth, back and forth. I'm probably gonna skip what I typically do when I say scenes like this. I'm like, hey, good to see you again. Banter, 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 banter. Okay, I'm not even reading anymore. I'm looking for, okay, where does the story pick up again? Oh, here it is. Speaking of work, what's the plan, Julius? But leave it in there because that's obviously your thing is to keep them kind of bantering. But that'll definitely be, and that's not just you. That's any writer when I can just tell. Okay, he's okay. These guys are going to talk for a little while. This is great when she comes in. This everything up to here is just solid, and it still is after as well. But this is great. God fucking damn it! I actually hear your voice when I see that. I can totally hear you. It's like if there's like a spelling typo, and you're like, God damn it! So it's totally Hayden voice for that. I love that. Do you mean to say new recruit here rather than requite?
God damn it!
There it is.
Autocorrect.
No worries. Um, Perfect. Just a suggestion here. You got, so you're a new recruit. So what did that? So I might cut the second. So Poison Ivy, the second Poison Ivy it felt a bit weird. He says, well, welcome to the party, Poison Ivy. Well, you see Poison Ivy. I might drop the second
Okay.
Poison Ivy. Yeah. Sounds a bit derivative.
I was trying to give him a name, like, because I remember I called Jack like Colonel Sanders or something. And
yeah, the idea that Julius is like Donald Trump. He gives everybody a stupid nickname. I love it. this is brilliant. And that was when I got to this point, I was like, oh, this totally works. So the remember, like when Jack was the guy, that was one of my things, several months ago when we were looking at this. I was like, I just don't buy that the BPA sends a guy into the field without properly orientating him. Now it makes total sense because they're moving so fast and so quick, and Ramona doesn't have time to get trained. Where they can't just train. They had to put her on a plane like immediately, and certainly the things about her that are like her powers and everything else like that, we'll train her on the road. So now what felt like a liability before actually feels like a strength the way you have it here now. So it totally works um, for her not to be orientated.
Now,
Julius is
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the things I did in this chapter that was different is I made it. I basically I'm setting things up so that one of the board members, for lack of a better word, snuck Ramona onto the team so he can dump more shit on Julius when she dies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
you know, I've kind of done that. I'm kind of curious on seeing your take on that as we go through this.
Okay. Yeah. Now here's an example of where up until this point everything was kind of moving along really well. Still does afterwards, but here's where it was clear that the chapter as written earlier, when Jack was the main recruit that was in this process, everything that follows made sense for him. And it's not that it doesn't make sense for Ramona, but here's what I'm looking at in the background of all this. His reaction to this was, God damn it. 2 chapters ago, or maybe it was last chapter, he was getting ready to arrest this woman because she was so dangerous and so screwed up his what he was there to do and stuff like that. And he knows what she's capable of. So to me, when he finds out that she's on the team, not only not arrested, not only not in prison, not only not going up in charges, but not at all, but also now on the team. What it seems like he would be mostly concerned with is, why are you on the team? You're not able to do, like, the focus would be on his concerns about her. But because you had written this previously with Jack in mind, there's not even a mention of that. It's all about his feeling. He's basically attacking the BPA like he was before. Oh, those bureaucrats, those politicians, they send somebody out in the field without training them. That doesn't work for her in the way at least that it worked for Jack, because the focus of attention is different.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it made sense for Jack, like, what are they doing sending these guys out? Now his thought is, oh, I can't believe they didn't train you, fucking BPA. Why have they got you in here? Like, the focus should be on her, it felt like, more, rather than the agency's HR failings. So it felt like he should say more about that. It was also surprising to me, but this is also obviously a sort of a remnant of the previous version of it, that Dick says absolutely nothing about the fact that he has a woman who's been, like, if I'm Dick, even if I'm trying to keep calm, even if I'm not Julius and I'm trying to think like that, he shows a remarkable lack of curiosity or even wanting to talk to her about her situation, even if he is tight-lipped, even of those things. I want to see him at least nervous or something like that would be interesting. The fact that he has no response of any kind.
Maybe just highlight all that so I can know what needs to be done.
Yeah, for sure. So I've basically put this note here. So I say, Dick, and this is just my opinion, Dick should be at least a little curious about her. Actually, he should be a lot curious about her. He must have heard about who she is and about what happened to her and what she's capable of. And even if he wouldn't be concerned in the same way that Julius is about her being a complete noob, with no BPA. So I mean, this is the ultimate rogue element. This is like handing a loaded bazooka to somebody who's never shot a gun and putting them on your team. And she's got superpowers. So I have a feeling Dick might be at least a tiny bit nervous about that, but he doesn't blink an eyelash. Doesn't blink an eye. He's mostly just talking about Ramona and Julius. So I might lean into that. Is to if it was me, sort of starting from scratch with this, Julius would be outraged that she's on the plane, because he's like, they can't just send anybody in here, and like, I want to feel the tension, more of the tension between him and Ramona, and even if Dick is playing sort of referee umpire like he is in this thing and saying, hey, why don't you go to relax for a little bit? I'll stay here with her. Then he's like, so yeah, about that, Ramona, can you like, I don't even know exactly where I would go with that, but what I would do is I would encourage you, even though I know you want to get this out right away, this is the stuff that will make people, I think remember your writing is that you took the time to stop and what would Dick's response to this person be? What would anybody on the team's response? They just put this in. The only person responding is Julius, and he's not actually responding to her. He's responding to the BP's failure to orientate properly.
Mhm.
So it's like they've just had this super being walk into their
Yeah,
midst.
but they can match her, remember? So she's not so powerful that they can't like fight back against her.
Sure, but still, like they may think that. So in other words, that's great if your reader is a member of the BPA, but your readers aren't. So if you want to excite them and get them into it, remember your whole job as a storyteller isn't merely to say shit that happens, but to elicit a certain emotional response at all times.
Hmm.
So you're kind of juggling it at the same time. So um, so let me know that like even that would be useful to know, but that's also I would love it if everybody on the team kind of looked at her. Like, imagine if she like have something fall off the like. Here's an example. Dick is like, chit like awkward small talk. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, or what? No, he would know everything about her. Of course, he's already indicated that. Something, 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 and then maybe as somebody's driving a forklift or whatever in to bring stuff up onto the plane, because there's a bunch of stuff they have to bring in. The guy driving it suddenly loses his balance, goes whoa, 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 and the whole forklift starts to fall over, and she just sort of goes boom, whoop. I don't think anybody on the BP is matching that, by the way, but maybe. But even if they are, the fact that she just casually like stops a forklift from falling over in the middle of talking to Dick, and I can see him and all of the other guys go like give us some sense of what to expect because you're not just showing us her power and everybody else's reaction to it. Ramona is going on this mission. I'll be so disappointed if Ramona just goes on this mission and there isn't at least one or two moments where she goes full Ramona, whatever that means, and we see why it was really important and a good idea to put her on this
Hmm.
team. So like a little taste, a little foreshadowing might be something that would be the sauce in this is this because right now it's just two conversations. It's three conversations. It's Julius and Dick talking. It's Julius and Ramona arguing, and then it's Dick and Ramona talking. So it's just three conversations. That's a lot of talking in an 8-page chapter. So I might throw some action in there while they're talking. They call it Pope in the Pool. Give us something to look at rather than just hearing people have a conversation. Thought. And to that point, when I come down here to um, there's some stuff here. I think it was good when you probably put it originally. I would encourage you to consider maybe cutting some of this stuff. But then thoughts turn back to Julius. Mr. Tracy, does Julius have a problem with me? Yeah, of course he does. We already know that because of what happened with Matthias. Yes, everybody reading the book knows that. Dick take alongside. I don't actually know what happened with Matthias. I just read the reports, but I can say it's probably not you if Julius did. It's probably not you if Julius doesn't hold a grudge.
Okay, that sentence did sound right.
I'm just trying to understand what that means. Yeah. So to me, I would go the opposite direction. So, like you said, so in other words, you could do this. You say, does Julius have a problem with me? Have Dick say the obvious. What do you think? Ramona, everybody on the planet, including who hasn't read the book, knows that Julius has a problem with you. That's the most obvious thing in the whole chapter.
Hmm.
Um, he says, "Does he have a problem with me?" And he says, "Well, maybe it was that whole thing with Matthias. Maybe it was the way you probably stood in the way and ripped this guy in half or whatever the deal was. Um, so maybe there's a thing there, sort of like right now the focus is on his age, but she wants to talk about how he feels about her, and instead he changes the conversation to facts about Julius." And I'm like, well, that's not what she asked, though. She didn't ask how old he was or how long he's been working here and stuff like that. So the emotional core of this story, of this chapter, is Julius is pissed off that Ramona is on the team.
Hmm.
Period. That's the whole emotional heart of this thing. And she's like, well, what can I do to get in his good books? Well, maybe don't get in the way of his investigation, but that could be kind of cool if Dick is sort of like trying to figure out how to help them be friends or something. Um, but yeah, so rather than the fact, so just my encouragement would be just think about into the flow of the conversation. kind of tough because you came to a chapter you'd already written. And in my mind, what I would have done here is I would have scrapped the other one I wrote and started from scratch, because you're probably going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to make this twist and bend to fit the fact that you have Ramona in the seat instead of Jack now.
So just rewrite it.
I would, but that doesn't mean you torch it. What that means is take it and you're going to refer back to, you're probably going to bring a lot of this chapter, probably most of it, back into the chapter you read. But so the physical act of looking at a chapter you've already written and figuring out what should I do instead, your mind will naturally want to default to what you've already written, even if it doesn't work. So what I would do is, I would strip it back and say, this is a chapter where Ramona and Julius start working together. Julius is mad. He's mad primarily because she's a rogue element. She doesn't even understand herself yet. She should probably be in therapy. She should certainly be under some kind of medical monitoring. Like, if I'm Julius, I'm like, this girl was attacked, a week ago or however long it's been. She doesn't even know what she's capable of yet. She's like crazy hungry. She should of course be under laboratory observation, not out in the field running around. This is so reckless to put Ramona in the field by any measure. But that's what I love about it. And so, but Julius, that's what I would be like. Julius would be objecting to it on the basis of that. She should be under things. Says, well, okay, but the reality is she's not. She's on the team. He's just using it as an excuse. He doesn't want her on the team. He doesn't like her. He nothing personal, but she totally got in the way of the operation. She's rogue. She's reckless. These are the things I would encourage you to be saying. Not the BPA was crazy to not orientate her, but this girl is a free radical. She's gonna mess up her operation. What were you thinking? How could keep in mind the whole reason based on the last chapter that he's being sent out to do this job is so that they can take some of the heat off him. If I'm Julius, I want this operation to run flawlessly because I'm kind of in the shithole with the BPA at the moment, or I could be. So the last thing he wants is for anything to even possibly fuck this mission up. So what the hell are you thinking putting Ramona on this plane? Like, she's going to screw it up for sure. If he wasn't in the doghouse before, he will be now, because she's going to do something stupid like she did last time. So that's the low-hanging fruit. The last time Julius and Ramona were together, she completely destroyed an investigation he was trying to do. Completely destroyed and potentially endangered the entire human race. And now they're putting her on this mission with him? Oh, yeah. No, if I'm Julius, I'm like, nope, 1,000 times no. She's a disaster. She's the last person I want on my team. So he's mad. And she doesn't get why. So this is a nice, beautiful, awkward beginning of that relationship. Mm-hmm. Most of this, by the time I got to page 7, I was skipping hard. So like this whole bit here where she says, for a moment, she considered giving up, just staying with the plane and going to prison. 20 years, all of this stuff, I don't believe any of it. Because the bottom line is, even if I did believe it, I'm just dying for you to get to the punchline at this point in the chapter. It's like, or she could go to court and would likely spend the next 20 years in prison. At least that was the best case scenario, according to her lawyers. If it was me, I'd skip right to, can you do that for me, Vasquez? And then it just ends with her saying, yes. So the challenge with the ending is that I already know, Dick already knows, Julius already knows, and every reader already knows. There's a 0% chance of her turning around and not doing this. She's just got too much at stake. You've made that clear. You did such a good job of making it clear in the last chapter, in this chapter, that there's absolutely no reason at all that she would ever walk away from this situation, unless you're going to ramp up the tension between her and Julius to the point where we actually believe she might.
With Daphne, we don't have any chapters where, her stakes are being explored.
No, but the conversation. Oh yeah, because you cut that part where she talked to Daphne, right? So, top of this chapter, then.
I could put.
No, please don't. Yeah, I would leave it here. Like when she here. When we get the idea, you're in the recruit. So what did Daphne threaten you with? 20 years in prison, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't believe she's ever going to say no. Why would she? There's not any reason in this chapter for her to say no. I don't, why would she give up? because she has to take orders from Julius. Julius hasn't seemed threatening enough for me to believe that she would go to prison for 20 years rather than be on a job with him.
True, but like in part of this chapter was pointing out the fact that she has no training. She's basically being taken from being a civilian to being tossed right into a firefight. So the odds of her dying are pretty like if someone's asked you to join the military and then they say, okay, we're going to immediately send you to Iraq with no training.
But you don't say that in this chapter. So in other words, what you just said now isn't in this chapter, okay. Which is if what you're saying is that if her reason for almost giving up is and going to prison is because she's afraid she might die, have her say that. If it's because she doesn't want to work for Julius, which is the setup you're giving us right here, Ms. Vasquez, I need to know that you're willing to take orders from Julius, whatever he asks you to do. She thought about it hard and almost gave up. But you're making it sound like the reason she's thinking of going to prison is because she doesn't want to work with Julius. Well, I haven't seen Julius do anything that would make anybody prefer 20 years to in prison rather than work with this guy. So either you have to dial up the dick factor on Julius with him giving these threats and just riding her, which I wouldn't do because I don't think you can sell that in one chapter. Or just, I like what you just said. The idea, like, if so, here's what I might do is dial down when Julius is talking about how crazy it is that she's on the team. Dial down the emphasis on the BPA failing to orientate her. Dial up the fact that she's rogue, reckless. She's for sure going to fuck this up like she fucked the last thing up. She's a nightmare on two legs, and she's most likely going to get killed. Do you have any idea, Ramona, what we're about to walk into? You've never done this before, have you? No, don't even answer, Ramona. I already know. You've never done this before. So you're going to come with us into an area where you're at risk of death at all times. And, you can lift up hospital beds and, you got some powers, but what are you going to do if you're overwhelmed by, unstoppable forces? The chance of you dying right in this thing is about 99.9%. Like, scare her. Although I don't know if anything at this point would scare her, because you've done such a great job the last few chapters in showing how she's in this new part of her life, just new way of thinking.
Well, there is the big fact that Matthias isn't really all that dangerous in the grand scheme of things.
Does she understand that, though, relative to what she's about to walk into?
I think I put it somewhere rather, if not this chapter, then the next one.
I'm still the Ramona I'm seeing, though, from you, because you've done a beautiful job of this. The Ramona in the hospital is somebody who's suddenly discovered she's so much stronger, more powerful, and full of energy and whatever else that she was before. If Julius were to say to me, we're going to a place where there's almost certain death and we're going to face, unstoppable forces, by this point in the story, I think Ramona would be excited about that rather than scared of that. Because you've given her such a woo, and I love that about her character. So what I might do is
keep the optimism.
Well, yeah, and the challenge is if you keep the optimism, having a chapter end with her saying, "So you're going to stay with us?" Yes. There's no hook in the end of that. There's no dramatic anything at the end of that. It's not that it's bad at all. And she's saying, "Yes, sir." Yeah. I knew 5 pages ago she was going to say yes. So what's the draw at the end of this chapter? My point, what I would suggest you do is redesign the whole chapter to be around she has no choice but to be on this trip. She's not ever going to say no. She has to do this. And she's trying to figure out how to get along with him. And maybe she's as pissed off as he is. I want to see, maybe we start seeing some sass from her. But the end, what I'd love to suggest is that this chapter ends with Julius and Ramona doing the equivalent of this to each other, back to each other. Not literally, but these people, like, what's going to jeopardize this mission is not Ramona being on the team, but Julius and Ramona's friction and conflict. Like, the hook would be they're now going into a mission, and the chances of them being a cohesive team are really low. And Dick is probably the only chance they have, at least for now, of keeping this team together, because with her and him, Julius and Ramona, near the front lines of this thing, I'm nervous about this mission. Like, if it was just Julius, he probably could have pulled it off. Julius plus Ramona, and that's a great hook. Like, so maybe it's Dick on the phone with Daphne at the end. Said, "So you guys ready to take off? You guys going to do this thing?" And he looks at both Julius and Rebecca or Ramona and goes, "Yeah, we got this, I think," or something like that. Because right now it's just sort of a series of conversations rather than having a specific direction that it's moving towards for the end of the chapter, which is we start with these two guys meeting each other going, "Hey, we're on a mission. We're going to do this. We're going to go in. We're going to do what we got to do. We're going to come back. I'm going to get my reputation back, get back in the good books of the BPA." Ramona's presence completely fucks with that. And by the end, I'd have Julius or Dick or somebody nervous. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to be able to execute this mission effectively. Food for thought. What's going
on? So any thoughts on Ramona potentially being here against BPA regulations, like one of the board members putting her here to, die and then use as later ammunition against Julius?
Say that one more time.
Well, basically, the story is right now is that the reason Ramona is here with absolutely no training whatsoever is one of the board members put her there so that she can die and then get Julius in more trouble.
Oh. I think if you haven't set that up beforehand and you try to reveal that later, it's a crapshoot 50-50. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that it's almost more useful to set, because if it's not set up properly, I would find that distracting to later find that out, because I'm like, okay, how many stories are you trying to tell at once here? Just the conflict between the two of them is interesting enough, but I like that. I would I like that actually a lot. And maybe I might I would be way more interested if this chapter ended where Dick calls into Daphne or whoever's trying to screw with Julius.
I actually have a section, very next chapter, where Julius calls Remy and he asks her to look into this for like that, basically that exact scene that you're thinking of.
Yeah. So wait 1 second. We'll succeed. Yeah, because I would consider ending this chapter with something along that line, where it's like the chapter ends with Dick calling in and saying, "Oh, okay, we got some trouble here, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." And then you go to whoever's on the other end who says, "Okay, well, good luck to you guys." Hangs up. And then whoever that person is goes.
Julius calling Remy. The idea is to have Julius calling Remy, partially
sure,
just to have like Remy have more character development. I really want to show she's a bit crazy.
But I would have who is the person that sent Ramona there to screw with Julius or to just watch him fail. That's the person I want to see at the end of this chapter.
I have him as Baker currently. He's the guy in charge of the BPA's accounting.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So, okay. Yeah, you definitely need to introduce, if that's going to be a significant plot point, I think before they go on this mission, you have to introduce him. Because if you introduce him after the fact, that's people say, "Oh, good, he invented all these things later to help make sense of the stuff that happened earlier." People tend to react a little allergically to that. But I would do that. Like, Remy gets off the phone with Julius, and then and she happens to be like in the thing with the accountant, or like whatever you have to do to get the two of them in the room together. I want to see some sign that this was a setup, not by Remy necessarily, but by that accountant. And maybe the accountant overhears the conversation and then is he working with somebody?
No,
to screw up Julius.
Ego. This is just pure ego. His motivation.
Oh, so how did the BPA accountant influence the people who make decisions to get Ramona to go on this trip?
Well, he's in charge of all the BPA's financials.
Right, fair. But how is he? I've never worked in an organization where the accountant or financial person had any operational involvement at all. Never mind such strong operational involvement. that they're able to put Ramona, a highly contentious person, on this team. I might go with somebody who actually is operational rather than accountant, unless the BPA works
Well,
differently.
he's one of the board members, so
Yeah, board.
he's technically like in charge of a huge portion of it.
Yeah, board members, and I'm just going from experience of things like this. This is all happening so fast. The board definitely didn't meet to make the decision to put Ramona on this, and the board wouldn't make those kind of any organization normally wouldn't make those kinds of like highly controversial daily operational decisions. No military works that way. It would be like expecting to say, well, the janitor made the decision to put Ramona in there. It's about as likely, even if he was a board member. And if that's what so I'm just trying to protect the sort of the credibility of who it is that's setting him up. I would make it, my suggestion be somebody who's much more directly involved in day-to-day operations than the guy over in accounting who happens to be a board member, even if he's the chief accountant. Or at least make sense of that, whoever it is. And if that is, then the audience for sure is going to be like, really? The accountant? What's his beef with Julius?
Well,
and I would go with more.
It's also logistics, paying for their finances, basically the entire logistical department.
Yeah, still not involved in putting someone like Ramona on a team like that. That would be, having been that guy in things like this, and also worked with the military and stuff like that. It's an operational guy. It's somebody who's working in ground day-to-day ops every day that's making a decision. And even that person is probably not making the decision. They had to go to a politician or a general. Like even if he was the highest guy in the BPA, I suspect that, that person probably could. But there's two questions long term. One is, the person has to be a credible person who actually could make a decision like that. And then their motivation for trying to screw Julius up would be a major plot point. That's not just a side thing that I would encourage you anyway to not make it a side thing. That sounds like a diabolical attempt to undermine one of the BPA's longest serving, and why longest serving BPA agent. We just heard about how there's perks. We just heard about how this guy, is a legend within the BPA. So trying to take him out, this would be a major. First of all, it's a major part of the plot, I'm assuming. And number two, it would have to be somebody who we would believe would be motivated to do that, and we'd want to know why. I'm thinking that's a major part of the story. I'm assuming this guy trying to undermine Julius by putting Ramona on the plane.
It just shows up in a handful of chapters, so he's more like one of those long-term villains that just comes back to annoy Julius over and over and over again.
Oh, okay. And what's his motivation then? Comes back to annoy him. Why?
Two reasons. One, he feels personally threatened by Julius. He doesn't like him. And two, Julius cost the BPA roughly the same as 10 agents of the same rank.
Okay, I like that. So my suggestion would be make it somebody operational plus this guy in accounting 100%, because that makes sense that they're trying to cut costs, and he really doesn't like him, but he's using cutting costs as an excuse to get rid of him.
I could just say that he bribed people, and that's how Ramona got on. Because
I don't buy it. I mean, they're putting a bunch, like, it's such a big thing. It would be like putting Charles Manson on the FBI team investigating something. Like, it'd be like she's such a high profile. You've made her, and I think it's good that you've made her such a high profile character that nobody's getting bribed to put. I mean, she's on everybody's radar at this point in time. So
not really. Like, she's on
really.
Like, she did a bunch of stuff, but beyond that, she didn't blow up a city or anything. She screwed up one investigation. Daphne only knows about her because Julius was involved. Most of her fame from this case comes from the fact that she was in Julius's case, not because she was necessarily special.
So I feel like you're okay, in that case, then I have a different question, and a concern is that you've got this incredibly interesting character who's capable of amazing things, and people have seen, even if it is only a handful of people who've seen what she's capable of. To the audience, she's the most exciting thing in the story right now. She is bigger than Elvis. She is bigger than Jesus. She's exciting. She's fun to look at. She's coming into her own. Every female, every woman who's reading your story, she's the only person they care about. You're saying, so this person who's capable of great things and whatever else like that, nobody knows anything about her
Well, she's
except for
capable
a
of great
handful of
things,
people.
but at the same time, so is a lot of other BPA agents.
But we don't know that. See, again, Hayden, the only person you've drawn our attention to is Julius and her. So you're referring to a bunch of background knowledge you have of characters and stories, but we don't have that. All we have is this character who stands out in 3D because she had this experience where she was basically almost raped and attacked, murdered in a graveyard. You've made her so cool and so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody else in the BPA who's as interesting to me as her, not just because she's got powers, but because of what's happened to her and her awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So to put her on a plane, but nobody knows what she's capable of. And at the BPA, it's inconceivable to me. Like, if there was a report written about her and anybody knows anything, my next question will be, okay, if she's not a big deal at the BPA, you're going to have to tell us why, because you've given us every reason to believe that she is something that everybody at the BPA is talking about right now. And if they're not, that's okay.
In other words, I need an airplane scene where we show off everyone else's superpowers at the same time.
I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, that would be less interesting to me. Like, it's kind of going in the opposite direction of what I'm talking about. But you've got, maybe you're just so in the story you don't see how great what you have is because you're trying to do all of this stuff at once. But you've got a character who is singular, who you've created an entire cool mythology around, the graveyard and everything that's followed since. Like, she is like female Terminator, but she doesn't realize she is. Because she's coming into this realization. She's more exciting than everybody else in the story combined. So if your answer to that is to say, okay, well, I'll just make everybody else as interesting and as big and loud and super as her, then it's 5 songs being played at the same time, and I'm just like, whoa, I got to put this book down. Go with what you've got. Capitalize on your strengths. You've got to do all. I mean, it's okay if the other people are super too. Well, the only point I'm making is that this girl is getting on a plane, and now you're saying that, and it's okay that there's been this sort of backroom engineering of putting her on the plane to screw up Julius's mission, which sort of then I'm like, okay, well, but what about Daphne? Is Daphne trying to screw his mission up too? Because I don't think so. But she clearly went along with this and got him. So why did Daphne, who I think I'm supposed to like and trust and think is a good person, then on Julius's side? Why would she put him on this plane? Like, why wouldn't she go, what? That's crazy. That's mental. So bribery doesn't work. Accountants don't work, in my opinion. Because for Daphne to give the thumbs up to this, she had to believe there was a good reason to put her on the plane. I'm dying to know what that good reason is now, because it sounds like the only reason she's being put on the plane is to fuck with Julius. But I have to believe that there was some brilliance, some genius in Daphne putting her on this plane, because she has confidence that when we're and I think that is something you got to get real clear in your head on what that is. Why would they put Ramona? What would be the good reason to put Ramona on the plane? Nothing to do with Julius. What are they hoping putting her on the plane would do? I still don't know. And if she's being put on the plane, I'm assuming it's because she is unique and different than everybody else in some way. So she's not exactly like everybody else. There's something about her that, despite her lack of experience, despite her lack of having any idea what's going on, Daphne thought it was good to put her on the plane. Why? What is she hoping that Ramona will contribute to this mission? And I would encourage you to give that some thought, because those are the kinds of logic things that people are going to read your story, and they're going to expect a certain, logic of the choices that are being made. What is the answer, by the way? Why? Give me a good reason. Totally,
because
Juliet. What would Daphne specifically, what is she hoping putting Ramona on this plane is going to do for the BPA?
Daphne did not put her on the plane. What Baker did is Baker went into her file He gave her a bunch of credentials, making it seem like she was more qualified than she was. Then he had someone else push it so that she was on the plane. And then he pressured Daphne politically.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to discourage all of that, simply because that's a lot. Okay, that's in such stark contrast to the story. You're going to have to start from the beginning and tell the story different then, because the story that you've been telling makes it so clear to me and to Julius and stuff that, like, first of all, I gotta buy that Baker, the accountant, would even do this. I gotta understand why he wants to do it. I have to understand how he would maneuver and manipulate. So the BPA apparently has such easy to manipulate, systems that he can just go in and create a fake history for this girl that everybody knows she doesn't have. I mean, this girl is as deer in the headlights as you can get. That's who you created first. So now, somewhere between the graveyard and this chapter, you're gonna have to go back and surgically implant all of those things you just said for me to buy that this was a setup. Because the clear message of this chapter is that Dick read the report. Julius clearly knows she has no credentials and background. That's the whole point of his rant. He's not specifically mentioning credentials, but the whole point of his rant is to saying they take somebody who doesn't know anything about anything and they just chuck them on a plane. What the hell, man? Bureaucrats. So I feel like you're potentially giving yourself a lot of work to do, and now you're going to have to go back. And you've already published those chapters. So now what you're hoping is that in some future chapter, you're going to be able to introduce Baker, who we've never met before, explain how he did all of these things, and explain why he did it. But you're going to give us all that information after the events, and hopefully we'll make sense of it, and hopefully we won't think it was just a convenient plot explanation. That would have been a good thing to know, actually, earlier, is this thing with Baker, because that's the first time.
To be fair,
I wasn't even aware of that.
I basically came up with it on the spot, and I was trying it out to see how it would work.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go with the obvious side. I would go with Occam's razor. You've got such a wicked idea. You don't need these complicated explanations of stuff. You've got a wicked story already. You've got, just go with the obvious would be my suggestion. They put her on the plane because I need to know the answer, that she's got some special thing, some special, like, otherwise it does make no sense that she's on the plane. They're gonna take somebody who Julius thinks they should have arrested, who's been screwing everything up, who definitely needs therapy. I mean, this girl should be in a lab being studied, and they're not doing any of that. They're just completely indifferent to any of her psycho-emotional or physical needs. She stayed in the hospital for a couple of days, and now they're putting her on a plane with no training to do God knows what. And why are they putting her on the plane? So there's a great big question mark. As much as I love it, there's a gigantic question mark over why they're putting Ramona on the plane. And you can answer it. I'm just looking forward to finding out what the answer is.
Yeah, I've got nothing. Political correctness, that's about as good as an answer, besides just openly trying to screw Julius over.
What would be the political correct thing?
Hey, let's have an agent who's a woman and also Mexican.
Oh my God. Okay. So this so the BPA is that racist and sexist that simply having a Mexican woman. So she's not even being put on the plane because of what you've shown her doing up until this chapter. It has nothing to do with that. It's because of this other thing, that she's a Mexican woman.
Yeah, that's one option. I just pulled out my ass.
Yes, okay. No, it's good. You throw spaghetti at the wall.
That's one of the other board members I created. Her job is just to be the unequivocal gen whatever millennial uber LGBT feminist thing.
Yeah, it's sort of like saying, like, if it was Justice League, it would sort of like be introducing Wonder Woman, and then a bunch of people say, "Hey, we want her on our team." Why? Because she's really strong and has a lasso that can make people tell the truth, and she's a god? No, because she's got great tits. Let's put her on the team. Woo! So I would say you've got this character that you've spent however many chapters showing this incredible evolution of her character. Like, you've handcrafted with love and with care and built Ramona from scratch and made her this person who's super, super interesting. And I got to know more about her. And she's continually unfolding. I'm assuming she hasn't even begun to know what she's dealing with in her own body. You did such a great job there where she's like, what's going on with me? What's going on with me? That has to pay off at some point. If you just have her do that for 2 or 3 chapters and then it never comes up again, and when she gets on a plane, nobody knows about it, or like I would definitely encourage you to spend some time thinking about what is the logic behind putting Ramona on this plane. And if you don't know what it is now, that's okay. But I think once you get the answer to that, it's not only going to make this chapter more logical and subsequent chapters more logical. I think it's going to give you some huge opportunities to figure out, because I haven't. This is the one story I'm working on with you where I have no idea what's coming down the road. I mean, I'm sort of going with you and hoping that each chapter makes sense based on what's going to happen later. Usually, when I'm working with people on a script, you've got a whole outline and I know what the story is, and then we're filling in the
Well, to be
blanks.
fair, we did have a
So
full outline, and we've just gone and rewritten it so many times. It's just become a mess.
yeah, well, yeah, so give me if you can, like in a couple of minutes or less. End of the day, what happens at the end of the story? Do they stop the Elhoon? Do
Yeah, they
they? Because
they
I
go to
can't.
the mountain, they blow up the nuke, escape the Alhoon. Basically, I'm aiming for more or less the same ending as last time.
Okay,
Except this time, Julius will accept Ramona as like a partner, right off into the sunset, that type of thing.
okay, cool. So it's a buddy, like totally apart from the fantasy elements. Am I understanding correctly? This is sort of like the equivalent of a buddy love or buddy cop type of thing,
Yeah,
where they're not cops, I know, but
it's
two people who can't stand each other in the beginning learn to become a team, and by the end have become a team.
mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. Then all the more reason why this chapter. That's beautiful, Hayden, because you've done a wicked job of sort of setting all of that up. The scene where she kills Matthias, that chapter now is super important because they were never a team to begin with. She just went through trauma. He helped her through it. That should have been that. And then he went to deal with Matthias, had no idea she was going to show up, and suddenly she appears and screws everything up, kills Matthias, and he's like, God damn it. And he's ready to arrest her. And I love that. So, in other words, right at the very beginning of the story, we see two people completely at odds. And then the very next chapter, they're on the plane together. Golden. All I need is a credible, logical reason why they put her on the plane. And it could be something as simple as she has some ability to fill in the blank. It doesn't even matter what it is. It's something that would help on a trip like this.
Problem is, we've already shown her abilities so far, and unless I'm just going to randomly give her a third one, like in the middle of a chapter that didn't happen, there's no reason to.
No, definitely. Yeah,
She can
I
make
agree.
plants
Don't
grow
don't
and
make up a
talk.
new one.
She can talk to plants and make them grow faster. Neither of those are very useful in Alaska.
Yeah. So whatever it is,
It's useful in the
you're
jungle setting in the mountain, but we haven't gotten there yet, so that's kind of redundant.
whatever it is, it needs to make sense, and it needs to make sense not only that she's here, but that Daphne. Like, what is Daphne's plan? If Daphne's plan was for Julius to show her the ropes, why the fuck doesn't Julius even know that she's going to be on the plane until Dick tells her? And even when Dick tells her, there's no manual, there's no instructions, there's nothing. It's just we're all on a plane together. So there has to be some. My suggestion would be there needs to be some logic to why they would put her on this plane. Once we get that, I won't ever bring it up again. But
Yeah.
until I know the answer, I'm just like, the story doesn't make sense.
Don't have a logical reason. The whole point was that Baker was to put her on the. My reason I came up with was put her on the plane to screw over Julius. That was my logical reason.
Okay, so back to the original. So okay, so here, so you definitely got sort of a roadblock here. One is that if you're going to go with that, you're gonna have to full stop, go back and rewrite some chapters or insert other chapters
Which ones?
so that the audience has any clue. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure in chapter 9 I did a pretty good job. Well, actually, give me a second.
You could do it in this chapter. You could do it at the end of the plane chapter where, like we said, Julius gets off the phone with Remy, and then somehow we go over to these other people. But then those people are going to they're the bad guys, or at least one of the major bad guys. I'm assuming this guy becomes a huge player up until the end when he's finally exposed for trying to destroy Julius.
Okay, so Mexican standoff, the fight with Julius. hasn't gone out yet, and neither has Daphne's chapter.
Yeah. Do it. You know what? Honestly, Hayden, do it at the end of this chapter. Do it at the end of the plane chapter. Shorten the conversation. My suggestion would be go back, tweak those few things, shorten the conversation.
Well, I'm
I
already
think you can
planning
shrink
on
it down.
redoing a huge amount of that chapter. I'm basically
Yeah,
just going to
and
rewrite the whole thing. Well, except for the beginning part. The beginning part, I'm leaving. I'm not touching that.
Cool.
And I'm also adding the part at the end where Julius calls Remy and asks about what the fuck is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you could introduce the accountant in this chapter. It's not too late at all because it's a logical place to bring it in. Still need there to be a good reason to put her on the plane for Daphne, and like there's got to be at least one person in the BP.
I'm just gonna gloss over the board members' exact jobs and just say they all have equal power, and then I'll put the LGBT lady and Baker working together to push this, each for their own reasons, but ultimately just to screw over Daphne and make her look bad. So basically politics. It's politics.
Okay, I'm gonna have to see how that just made it harder to understand how she gets on the plane, not easier. Let me just think this through.
High-level BPA members want to screw over Julius, and that's why you're here.
But why her? Like the problem is again,
she was available.
I definitely don't buy that, Hayden. This is a girl who's been through the only introduction we've had to Ramona is that she is a severely traumatized, abused person who suddenly started getting unique powers. She is anything but random. She's anything but someone who just happened to be there. And I don't buy it if she just happened to be there. They're not going to pick somebody off the street. They're definitely not going to pick somebody
think about it. You want to set. I want to screw over Julius. I can't do it in a specific way, so I give him a new partner, and I want his partner to die, so that then I have more political shit to pour on Julius.
No, totally. I get. In theory, what you're saying works. It's like, except that it doesn't work at all with this character because. No, I don't believe the BPA would just pull somebody. Hey, we got a secret mission that's super confidential, that's totally off the grid. Go find somebody at McDonald's and we'll put them on here and nobody will ask any questions. I don't buy it. I don't buy that it gets past Daphne. I don't buy that it gets even past the board unless they're all corrupt. And even then,
they're all corrupt.
What this says to me, so what that means is there's absolutely no day-to-day operational control of anything at the BPA. It's completely run by the board, which isn't the way anything actually works in real life. So anybody who's kind of reading that will be like, I don't get it. Like, who's in charge? Like, they just pulled Ramona on. So bottom line is, I'm just being a friend. None of those reasons for putting on Ramona on the plane, none of them work in my opinion. I think what you have to do, and plus, it's way simpler than that. To me, she's being put on the plane precisely because of what she's just gone through, because we believe that on this particular mission, by the way, we're one of the things that's in the background that we haven't even talked about yet is the obvious bigger thing going on in the background of your story. She has connected, put the clues together. She was attacked by Matthias, who's worried about the Alhoun because he knows about them. Matthias is out of the picture now. You could do something as simple as this. There's some kind of a psychic link that was formed between because this is huge in vampire lore. There was some kind of a huge thing when Matthias died. He dumped all of his, the hard drive of his memories or whatever else into her through this psychic link they have. I know that sounds crazy, but that happens in vampire lore all the time. So she's valuable because they think maybe this thing they're sending him on, at the outpost. There, if it's true, there's Alhoun there.
Yeah, but
and if it's true,
like works between vampires. Not Ramona's not a vampire. I mean,
sure.
I specifically pointed that part out, so I'm not sure how that works.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not trying to get literal, but you're hearing me, right? Like I'm not trying to talk about literally what happens in vampire. Forget that I said vampire. My point was that there's huge story links you could be making, and you're not, and it's sort of like you're passing by the opportunity to.
I just don't really see them. Like, do you have any other examples? Because I'm just not seeing it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I think just give it some. I'm just trying to find any reason in the world for Ramona to be put on this plane in a way that an organization. Otherwise, if there isn't a good reason, you've worked so hard to make the BPA feel like a legitimate organization. I still don't know anything really about the BPA. In this chapter, Julius criticizes the BPA for being a shittily run, poorly run,
Well,
don't train and orient their
it is a
people.
100-year-old government organization that has had little to no updates and is mostly run by corrupt people.
Okay, I don't know any of that, right? So in other words, again, there's so much about the BPA I don't know. All I know for sure is that they're an organization trying to somehow hold paranormal forces at bay from being unearthed. But the other stuff I find out about them, according to you, is that they're 100 years old, they're corrupt, they're run by like I don't know anything about the BPA, and what I do know is that they're literally the worst, most poorly run, corrupt organization on the planet. What am I? It's so weird. Um, and the only reason you're feeling the need to even think of the BPA that way is because you're trying to have an accountant put Ramona on the plane to screw over Julius, and you're having to go through all these gymnastics to create an organization run by a board which doesn't exist anywhere on the planet, and there's nobody operationally in charge of this. And a couple of corrupt people in the board managed to hoodwink Daphne and everybody else to put her inexplicably on a plane, but it doesn't make any sense to the reader either. So and the reader doesn't know any of that stuff. She's just on a plane, and you're going to explain later that she was put there by people who were trying to screw over Julius. Later is too late. It doesn't make any sense now while I'm reading it. So any explanation later will just seem like, oh, that's something Hayden made up later when he was trying to figure out how to make sense of why she's on this plane. So I think the only reason I was suggesting Psychic Link is because you've got this huge, beautiful architecture. If you're going to tie what happened to the graveyard in a through line to this, she was attacked by a man who knew about the Alhoun coming. Then he killed that man. And it seemed like the last person on Earth who might know anything about the Alhoun coming is now dead. Julius was mad at her for killing him because he might have been the only person who had a clue. Wouldn't it be cool if somehow, in some inexplicable way that exists in your world, she suddenly has this link with him, or has like a download from Matthias and the attack of him. When I attacked him, suddenly my point is that she becomes the replacement for Matthias, and maybe if they could figure out how to unlock whatever's in her head. I mean, this is some work that I'm talking about, but all I'm really doing is looking for any legitimate reason to put her on the plane that is better than she somehow managed to go through all of the hoops within the organization to end up on the plane without anybody saying a word, and the audience doesn't know why, and we're supposed to just be okay with it. It doesn't make any sense that she's on the plane, period. And what you have to do, in my opinion, is figure out what the good people and the bad people are up to. And again, super simple. All you have to do is say that she's got some into.
Well, in chapter 10, instead of whatever all the other stuff I have currently, I just lean into Julius is flabbergasted as to why Ramona's on the plane.
Yep.
And Julius tries to call back to the BPA. Daphne's apparently not available for make up a reason. And he's just ordered to take her with him.
Yeah, you're still going to have to eventually explain it.
Yeah,
but that buys you some time.
Yeah, it buys me time, and more importantly, it really leans into more of the whole corruption issue with the BPA.
Yeah, and you'll have to do the very next chapter, in my opinion, too, because I don't think anybody. I would be surprised if readers are willing to wait any number of chapters. If you don't give us a reason why she's on this plane, I like where your head's at, where Julius is like, and that's what I was encouraging before. Is Julius is like, why are you on this plane? He's not criticizing the BPA for not orienting her. He's criticizing, like, why are you on this plane? He should say that, and the moment he says that, he'll be echoing what the reader is already thinking. And the reader will suspend their disbelief for maybe a chapter, maybe if you're lucky. But if within the next chapter you don't give us some kind of explanation for why she's on that plane, we're going to stop reading because it doesn't make sense. There's no logic to it. you can get away with characters saying, "Hey, this doesn't make any sense. You're on the plane. Why are you on the plane?" Yes, you can. They can say that, but eventually, very soon, actually, you're going to have to tell us what is the answer to that question. So chew on it. Don't feel. I'm not meaning to corner you.
Yeah, don't worry.
Make you feel
I'm
like
just going to make an
you know it
interlude.
now.
By the way, should I keep the name Baker or Horner? I'm not sure which one I like more.
I thought you were going to say horny for a minute there.
No.
Either way, they're both kind of sinister in their own way.
Yeah.
And the great thing is once you saw, like, literally the only logic problem so far in your whole story is why is she on the plane, and more importantly, who's up to what back at the BPA. Once you nail down the answer to those questions in a way that makes sense, I bet you I'll have next to no questions, because now it's just a matter of playing things out and showing these two become partners. Julius and Ramona become partners while the people at the BPA are trying to screw with him, and they become partners. And I'm assuming the moment Ramona and Julius finally click near the end, they expose the whatever's going on, Baker or whatever else like that. I love that idea, by the way, that this is a story about how to your point, a corrupt organization that desperately needed change was trying to get rid of their best agent. Mm-hmm. And they put Ramona on the plane to screw him over to hopefully end his career. Little did they know that these two people would eventually team up and not only solve the mystery, but expose them and what they were up to. And as a result, cleanse and purify the BPA and help it to get back on track. That's a wicked story. Mm-hmm. If that's where you're headed, love that.
Quick question. Yeah. Should I just have Horner removed from the BPA at the end of this book, or should I just let it burn out slower? Because right now I threw together an epilogue one night when I was just, I don't know, drinking soda or whatever, and basically Julius confronts Horner. He shows him all the evidence he's gathered, and he tells Horner he's going to retire or he's going to shoot him here and now, and then he shoots him in the leg. Kind of prove a point. But Julius is both crazy enough to follow through with his threats, and he can actually get away with this shit.
Well, the good thing is, one thing you can do, like Lex Luthor, how many times does Superman put him in jail and then he escapes, right? So I think it's like...
Oh, no, he won't die. This isn't the end of Horner, no matter which one I do. I'm basically asking, should Horner stay at the BPA, or should I make him immediately go and look for the villain I was planning on having him work for anyways? Understand if he stays, he'll still do the same thing. It just won't be public knowledge to, like, Julius.
What you should do with him next, I think, depends on sort of where you want to go with the story as a whole next, and I would be willing to sort of answer. I think I could give you a better answer a little later when I know what that story does next. But I love that you've got this character. This is a new person I wasn't aware of before today. So the idea that there's somebody at the BPA trying to if Julius is already kind of feeling burnt out and cynical, and like he has one foot out the door anyway, he's sort of like Morgan Freeman in the movie Seven. But I love the idea that the person who tries to get Julius out of the BPA, all of his machinations end up keeping Julius in the BPA, more committed than ever, with a great new partner, and start cleaning up the operation and get rid of Baker. That's cool. That's very cool.
So Baker, not Horner, then.
Either one, yeah. I don't really have a strong feeling.
Yeah.
Both names are great. I love it.
Yeah. Well, one's named after a villain in the new Puss in Boots movie, so.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, I did not realize that before I named him.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay, hang on just one second. I'm just going to add something here. So, yeah, I know I've been very, very direct with the things we're talking about today, but it's only because I think this is really, really critical. You got to have an internal logic to the process. Fantasy writers do this all the time, and it drives, and not talking about you, it drives publishers absolutely fucking insane, because they'll have, well, this happens, and there's no logic to why it's happening. It's just stuff happening because they want it to happen. It's like, why does that happen? Just cause it just happens. And then they don't get published, and they wonder why. And you got to have there has to be a thread running through the story. Notes attached. What chapter was that we just looked at? Chapter 10. Perfect. So what I'll do is give me some reason. Like next week, I will definitely be looking for your answer to the question of why she's on this plane. And if it doesn't make sense to me, because I love you, I'm going to tell you it doesn't make sense to me. But I think you'll do it. And it could be, don't try to do anything elaborate. Don't try to necessarily do this big elaborate thing. Keep it simple. But I would introduce Baker or Horner or whatever you want to call him. I would introduce him at the end of this chapter on the other end of the phone or near whoever's on the other end of the phone. And this is the first time you begin to realize, because Julius is asking in this thing, why are you on this trip? That's, by the way, a convenient, easy way to buy yourself some time. If everybody's like, I don't understand why she's on the plane. Why is she on the plane? It makes no sense that this complete noob who could endanger everything, rather than running away from that, run towards it, like you say, lean into it. And then simply at the end, like, so the reader's like, yeah, Julius has got a point. Like, why the fuck is she on this plane? And then if the last thing we read in this plane is people says, did she get on the plane? Yes. Excellent. And we're like, oh, there's a plan here. I don't know what it is yet, but there's a plan here. We're going to find out. That sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to make a little interlude chapter and just do all of Baker's stuff in that and then immediately release it after this one so that there's no lag time.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. Just a lot easier
Sounds good.
than like, because the whole point of having short chapters is to not have a giant text block that I have to search through every time.
Yeah, I love your chapters too. I think you've got a winning length. Like, it's a breeze to read your chapters, and I'm like, yeah. I wish every book just kind of flowed this well. So, yeah. So notes are sent, and does this time next week work? Saying again?
Thursday?
No, sorry, that's
Mondays.
right. I forgot we changed it. Monday. I've got you Monday at 8. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that should still work.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you then, buddy. Have a great week.
Okay. I'm going to go and rewrite the entirety of chapter 10 and an interlude. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Depending on how things go, I'll rather send you a revised chapter 10, or we'll just move straight to chapter 11 while I continue to edit this.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So long as I do eventually get to read the rewritten chapter 10. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck, man.
No problem. See you then. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.